Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Eternal news video. So the new adventure, The Tale of Horus Traver, is finally out since yesterday evening, and it's time to review the few mostly limited related buffs that we have gotten, a few other minor changes, and of course the 23 new cards from the adventure. Alright, so I'll show you real quick which cards have been changed for limited. One is, where is it? Cable Bludgeoner. This used to be a 2-3, now it's a 3-3, which almost makes it nice enough for constructed. There's just too many things competing for the slot, which is why it will likely never make it into constructed, even though it's a Minotaur. But yeah, in limited, this was already pretty nice, I think, personally. If you draft, for example, like a weapon-heavy Argent Pot deck, for example, and now it's even nicer, matches up better against stuff. I'm a bit surprised by that buff because I felt like the card's actually pretty good as a conditional 4-5, because unconditional 4-4s are really good, so conditional 4-5 that also gets the stats from a weapon, and there's a lot of potential weapons for this, make it pretty nice. So now it's even better. Awesome. Then we have Topaz Drake. That guy used to be a 4-3, now it's a 5-3, which actually makes it from pretty bad to quite good, because now, for example, it doesn't get stalled by Tower Top Patrol anymore, the 1-5 flying 4-4, which before made this look really embarrassing. Now it basically doesn't really get stalled by anything other than like Dune Phantom, which is okay, I guess. An uncommon and it doesn't see that much play. And yeah, it at least trades with most flyers and now is like a decent option to play, or maybe even more than decent. Then we have the new the change to the Praxis guy. I think his name is Sentinel. Yep, Sandglass Sentinel. This used to be a 3-6 that gains +3/+0 per spell plate. Now it's a 4-6, so much better base stats, which already makes it much more decent and a more deterring blocker in terms of opposing attacks. And yeah, now each spell gives it +4/+0 this turn instead of +3/+0. So also a much more reasonable option as a limited 7-drop. This guy. When you play a weapon, you gain 2 armor. This used to be 1 armor, so this is much more impactful and has much stronger synergy with especially relic weapons in draft now. It was already like kind of an okay 4-drop, I'd say, and now it's much more appealing. You can focus a bit more on relic weapons with this in your deck and try to generate board like tempo and card advantage with the extra armor generated from Valkyrie Militant while also getting a 2/2 fire in the process. So this is actually pretty decent, and these buffs should probably help some of the a bit weaker draft strategies to become more important. Next we got 2 really awesome new totems. I'll preview them real quick. If you haven't seen them, they are amazing. The new saloon, it looks so badass. I want it so bad. I'm so sad that I only have 1,000 gems left from the 2,000 from the Founders Pack. I might buy another 200 just to get this thing. Look at this. This is what happens when you win. Amazing. And then there's like this vulture flying on top of it, and then you can just send the vulture away again. This is pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff you can break here, just like we are used to from Hearthstone boards. Blow things up. If you click the windows, there are like bottles come flying out and stuff. And tear it down a bit. It's just really cool, looks really nice. These totems are getting more and more awesome. Then we have the Xenon Obelisk, things you can do. Power it up, power it down. summon a clock roach, and then you can activate the clock roach and let the clock roaches fly around. It's pretty cool, like the roaches are really nice. Pretty awesome. And then all the basic totems received an upgrade once you hit level 20 in the game. Your basic totem upgrades to a nicer version than the basic version that we know. Alright, that's it for those kinds of changes. Time to look at the campaign rewards. This is the new adventure. Quickly show it. Tale of Horus Traver. There's like 3 parts, 5 fights each, and 1 final battle and story sequences, nice voiceover. All in all, a really cool, well done campaign. Really nice. Doing some nice work with the campaigns. Learning a bit more about the lore of the game is a pretty big deal if you create a game that's not based on an IP and just has its own, complete own and new original lore that is created from scratch. And it's really that they do adventures the way they do. And so far I have to say I really like the lore of the game. The world and story and characters are pretty cool. Bit different world with the whole mix of like medieval, some tech magic stuff, and the more futuristic technology and weapons, sort of a bit of a steampunk, Western gunslinger, fantasy hybrid, and it, as weird as the combination sounds, they managed to hybridize it really well, and it kind of turns into a really cool, kind of unique, coherent world. Pretty nice. This campaign lets you download the background. Let's look at the rewards. Alright, this is Crimson Firemaw. We already seen that as a preview and I discussed it before. Really good 4-drop, probably worse than Impending Doom. Aggressive decks that have access to Impending Doom as well, because the ability is not going to be that impactful, because it's going to happen too late. By the time you draw the card, it impacted. Even if you draw it right away, you draw it turn 6, which is where the game is usually about to end anyway. And your hand is pretty empty, so you kind of have nothing to use your power on anyway, rather than the card you draw. But this has a lot of other interesting implications. Can be used in various decks that don't have cards like Impending Doom. Like, for example, if you want to go Rakano without a weapon as a 4-drop and want to have a unit as a 4-drop, or just in Skycrack as an alternative to Groundbreaker. Although as an alternative to Groundbreaker, Groundbreaker is much better against Titan because it's a 3/6 double damage most of the time that can attack into a Titan without dying and even kill the Titan, while this still is stalled by a Titan to take down the Titan like Pummel. But yeah, there's a bunch of other interesting, like in Praxis with Warp, pretty interesting, where the ability really comes in. Cost reduction is most powerful probably in mid-range decks. So there's a bunch of interesting things to try with this. I think this is one of the cards that actually looks stronger and more impactful than it is going to end up being. It's going to be decent, it's going to be solid, it's going to see some play, but it's not as good as it looks at first glance, I think, just the context of what's going on in the game. Then we have Southwind Herald, the fourth and final Herald. If you have one of each Herald in play, you can sacrifice this all 4 Heralds at the end of turn, and then you get an Avatar of Winds, which is a 9/9 flying Aegis for 16, deals 5 damage to each flying enemy unit and to the enemy player, and when the enemy player is dealt damage by Avatar of Winds, be it in combat or otherwise, you get to play a free spell from your void. So basically it comes into play, kills all opposing flyers, or like most opposing flyers, deals 5 damage to the opponent, and lets you play a spell for free because of the 5 damage to the opponent's face. And then you have a 9/9 flying Aegis that can let you play another spell the next turn you attack the opponent, because the opponent will have a hard time blocking it after you killed all their flyers. And also a hard time killing it, being such a big guy with Aegis, so you can't really kill it with relic weapons, so you need 2 answers to kill it. So yeah, a lot of work to make it happen, but if you make it happen, you're gonna be rewarded very generously. But yeah, I don't think this is particularly constructed relevant, especially because Southwind Herald is pretty mediocre as a 3/2 flyer for 3, Eastwind Herald is pretty underpowered for constructed, and Northwind Herald is pretty situational. Westwind Herald is like the best of the 4 heralds, basically. That guy is so in constructed. But yeah, it's a really cool thing, and casual players especially will love this card, and it's definitely a cool card, just not particularly good card, I'm afraid. Then we have Tavrod, Auric Broker. This is the most powerful and likely also most impactful, or one of the most impactful cards in the new set. This will spawn entire new archetypes and fit well into potential existing ones. This guy is just brutal, and he's also really hard to kill. Basically need to silence him, or the only answers are Vanquish, Slay, and Death Strike. So basically, if you're not playing Justice or Shadow, this guy is a nightmare. Because Justice also happens to be the color that's best at silencing. So Fire, Primal, and Time are really bad at this guy. You usually get at least 1 attack out of this guy against colors. And yeah, brutally efficient at 5 power. Getting a weapon with +5 attack is incredible. Getting unit with +5 attack is also really nice. And if you hit twice and draw 2 cards from your 5/7 endurance, and the cards you draw get incredibly buffed. It's just such a huge advantage, even if it dies in combat. Who cares? Just pull the head so much. Then we have Triumphant Stranger, which is actually pretty sweet and might be worth putting into Stranger decks. The main problem I see a bit is that Strangers already now have a really good, really powerful 5-drop, so this is gonna end up with like 2 5-drops, possibly 4 of each, so that's a bit clunky. Have to see how I solve this, but other than that, this guy is really powerful, and if he's unanswered, which also basically requires Slay, Vanquish if he is big enough, and Death Strike, because sure, you can permafrost it, but it's still gonna create a random stranger at the start of each turn. Silence works, of course, just like with Tavrod. Actually pretty good, because then it's just 1/1, but it's still a stranger, so it still gets all the stranger buffs. And yeah, obliterating might be hard with a bunch of strangers in play as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting addition for the stranger deck. Then we have Devoted Theurge. This guy is really nice. A 4/4/4/4 is pretty decent. Costs double time, so it's not very splashable. Gain 4 health the turn it comes into play, which is both nice against pressure and with life force cards. And then you have a built-in continuous life force activator by paying 6 to permanently give it +1/+1 and gain 1 health to trigger life force. So this is a really nice card in a stall for sure. Definitely one of the better and more impactful and, in my opinion, exciting cards from this adventure, and I'll do some really sweet stuff with last night on stream. As soon as I have something more final deck tech, for sure. Then we have Copperhall Paladin. It's a bit underwhelming, a 3/4/4/4 with lifesteal is pretty below the curve. It's a Minotaur, which helps, but then you have this weird line of text that means if you put a weapon on this, you get to ramp the depleted Justice Sigil into play from your deck, which is kind of weird, because card wants you to be kind of aggressive by playing weapons and attacking and stuff, and then get to ramp from like 5 power to 7 power. Really weird and doesn't even do much anymore because Minotaurs tend to stop at like 5 because Tavrot is the most expensive and best Minotaur basically. So yeah, the design of the card seems kind of weird and I mean, they probably had some scenario or some dream in mind with this guy, but I don't know what it is. Like even you ramp into like a Zindel's Gift with this, like what deck wants units and weapons to put on units, and then a Zindel's Gift is just, yeah, the card is just weird. And probably not even worse to put in a Minotaur, worth it to put into a Minotaur. And even in the Minotaur deck, there's basically like a minor fixing. Like if you don't have your 5th power, you can put a weapon on it. Get your 5th power into play for free for your Tavrot the next turn. That's where it comes in a bit. But yeah, there's like no ideal or dream scenario for the ability. It's just weird. Then we have Twin Strike Master. Another mentor card. One of the more powerful mentor cards, I would say. First of all, the 5-drop, so it curves kinda nicely with a Titan, for example. And it's a 4/4 double damage for 5. That gives the student double damage. So giving your Titan double damage is pretty neat. This might be interesting 4-drop, a 5-drop alternative in say, a Combre aggro deck as an alternative to Reality Warden, for example. Not sure though, like, not super likely that this is gonna see a lot of play. But it at least is not completely uninteresting. I think it's a card that at least has some potential use and is like reasonably powerful. Then we have Watchwing Conscript. I guessed wrong with the flying, and some other people that I saw that guessed Revenge guessed right. This is basically really bad the first time around. 6 power 5/3 vanilla basically with Revenge. But if it has Destiny, it comes into play as a 7/7 flying Aegis due to a Valkyrie wings attached to it. For some reason it doesn't show Valkyrie wings, but okay. And turns from a soldier into a Valkyrie. Basically, the mechanic has finished the transformation of a human to a Valkyrie. But yeah, card is, I think, unplayable. Basically have to put a 6 power 5/3 in your deck and in play and have it die and have the game go long enough for it to come back to get your payoff, and that's just way too many hoops to jump through. So unfortunately, card is really bad. Next we have Yeti Pult. This card is amazing and weird and strange and kind of good all at the same, and kind of bad all at the same time. So first of all, triple blue is a hefty requirement. There's not really any deck that would remotely want this and at the same time be capable of reliably producing double primal on turn 4. Because Skycrack, for example, is usually heavy fire due to the 1-drops and stuff. That doesn't really work out. Then 4/1 is kind of weird stats, makes it very fragile, dies to a lot of stuff, dies to everything in combat. The summon ability is kinda cool though, dealing 1 damage to 3 different targets. Can be really nice, clear up a lot of random chaff on the opposing side. So that is decent. And the activated ability is actually really powerful. Paying 7 and exhausting Yeti Pult to draw 3 cards and then stunning Yeti Pult, so basically every other turn you can pay 7 and draw 3 cards with this, which is really powerful. The problem is, this means you kind of on a longer game or stally game plan where a 4/1 is not particularly likely to survive or have much impact, because you can't block with it, or if you block with it, it dies. So basically it's kind of like sitting around waiting till you can activate it, and yeah, if you don't activate it, it's not that great. Maybe it's gonna have some fringe use as a sideboard card, because it's definitely interesting at what it does. But yeah, it's kind of a weird card that's all over the place. That's kind of cool and actually kind of powerful, but really weird and awkward at how it lines up with a lot of stuff. So not sure what to make of this, other than just smile because it's a Yeti bolt and it's awesome. I mean, look, these Yetis are super excited about being shot to the enemies. I love Yetis. Yetis are awesome. Next we have another, I would say, awful horror card. Yeah, I mentioned many times how terrible the forecast mentor draw a card for each battle skill the student has is. Like, we don't even have enough cards that have enough battle skills to even draw 2 or 3 cards reliably with that card. And this card is basically more expensive and has the same issue. Even though I would say this is a bit more powerful, at least. Like, if there was a good target that has, like, let's say 3 or 4 battle skills and also is good enough on its own, because Silverwing Familiar, for example, is not going to pair well with a 7-cost card like this, then the card would actually be nice, because putting 3 or 4 3/3s with a battle skill each in play would actually be kind of powerful. Then again, it costs 7, so it's really slow, and you need the other card in play. It doesn't do anything on its own. Is still highly situational, and there's a lot of powerful things you can do for 7 and 8 in this game, so yeah. Even if we had good targets for this, which I think we don't, it still would have a hard time finding a deck that can build around it, and the way it is right now, I would say probably tied for the slot of the worst card in the adventure. Then we have Auric Interrogator. We already discussed this at length in the spoiler review. Just a staple. One of the, I think together with probably the Theurge and Tavrod, arguably the best and most impactful card in the adventure. Really great. 3 power, 4/3. In Shadow is already great. Shadow was missing a solid, statted, robust, universal 3-drop unit. Now it does have it, and it has great synergy with a million things: Rapid Shot, Bandit Queen, Dark Return, Obelisk. There's so many ways to make this draw cards. And if you have a 3 power 4/3 that draws a card each turn and deals a damage to you, that's just a recipe for victory. That card is just amazing, and another card that I'm really excited about. Adventure. Then we have Waker of Vengeance. Already talked about it. Problem with this guy is a bit that it's a bit win more. There are some decent targets for this. There's the new Crimson Firemaw, there's Titan, there's Carnosaur, there's Ember Monument. So these cards can benefit from the ability of Waker. Then there is like this Praxis Elysian hybrid that benefits even more with Cerso and False Prince and stuff. But the problem is the card is super low impact by itself, and the value is speculative, making it a bit tricky. But maybe there's a way to abuse it, or maybe it's worth it to run 2 or 3 in a Praxis deck with enough non-warp units that gain warp from this. Push it over the top. We'll have to see. Card has some potential and is interesting, but I remain skeptical. Next we have Vision of Austerity. We finally know what the Omen of Austerity does. And it's pretty awesome. So it's basically just a sorcery speed, spell speed, 2-cost relic removal that then curses the opponent, denying them to play any future copies of that relic. So basically, if you hit the first chalice with this, they need to kill the Omen before they can play another chalice. Same against Obelisk. And those will be two of the prime targets. Also really nice against Armory, because if you hit their hammer or their Daisho, they can't even get it back with Reforge or Stash, or search for another copy with Rise, because, I mean they can, but they will not be able to use it, because the Omen locks them out of it. So, pretty powerful effect, great sideboard card. Likely not gonna make it into main decks much, maybe as a 1 or 2 of in like, I don't know, Horu Control, which is not that relevant of a deck to begin with. But yeah, exciting sideboard card for sure. Very powerful. In Chalice and against Chalice. And we have Unexpected Results. This is kind of interesting. I wish this was at least a fast spell. This is sort of a bad Rain of Frogs. Instead of turning the random card in their hand and all copies of the card in the deck into 1/1 Destiny Frogs, this transforms all copies of a spell of your choice in their deck, but only in the deck, not the ones they already have in hand or the ones in the void, into firebombs. The problem is there's hardly any deck that is super reliant on a single spell, that it's worse to invest a card on denying them the spell. Especially with a card like Rain of Frogs existing, it's gonna be almost always better to run Rain of Frogs. So this card is not gonna do anything, I'm afraid, until we maybe have a deck that is super dependent on 1 or 2 specific spells that this can reliably hit, no matter where they are in hand or deck. The problem though is that if they have a copy in hand already and 1 copy is enough, this is not even gonna do enough to just hit the copies in their deck, and they have the copy they need in their hand already. So even if a deck is spell dependent, this is unreliable. This card, I think, is actually pretty terrible, unfortunately. Even in the best scenario where the opponent has 1 spell, they absolutely need to win the game. Then you're probably still better off at using Rain and hope they have it in hand, so you hit all copies, rather than using Unexpected Results just to see they have a copy in hand already, and your Unexpected Results unexpectedly or actually expectedly don't do anything and you just lose anyway. Alright, then we have Cinder Yeti. This is a card that I'm actually pretty excited about. This is super sweet. First of all, my Jito list is gonna love 4 of these guys, and it's gonna be even more brutal. Jito list just got a whole lot better and it was already amazing. So yeah, I currently cut the Shadowlands guides for this little guy, because he has the potential to be a 2-for-1 and also generate a lot of tempo and momentum by just denying their biggest blocker to block for a turn and putting them so far ahead that they can stabilize basically. And the fact that you can even get it a turn earlier because it has warp and for free, it's just amazing, and the overwhelm is great with rally and rapid shot. So this is just a powerhouse. And it obviously also has potential implications in other aggro decks like Burn Queen, Skycrack and so on. But it's harder to fit there because there's more competition in the 3-cost slot because those decks function a little different. But this is an interesting alternative in Queen to Countess. This might be a nice replacement for Countess or Interrogator. One of the two will probably replace Countess going forward. Okay, then we have Kindle. Already another card we already talked about in the spoiler review. Basically, a low floor, high ceiling card, as in the card can do really strong, really powerful stuff, but can also be pretty bad by losing you a card economy wise and not doing a whole lot meaningful for you. But yeah, this card is sort of waiting to be broken and powerful stuff potentially. I'm certainly gonna try to make that happen. Then we have this card. I am so excited by this card. I actually didn't expect we're gonna see something like this. Like, I have been very outspoken when it came up that I thought that the way ramp was created so far in the game, that we will not get mostly indestructible and mostly unconditional ramp that costs less than 3. Like Secret Pages cost 3. And this is unconditional and theoretically killable, but practically there's only 2 things you will usually face in main decks that answer this. One costs 3, so it's still kind of bad and costs 1 more. And that's like overall a positive trade for you if you trade a 2-cost card for the your turn 2 for their turn 3, and on the play you might even get 1 ramp out of it before they can kill it. So you ramp from 2 to 4, they kill it, and then you play another 4. They are way behind. Or Shatterglass Mage, which is way too slow to even care about this. Most of the impactful ramping will have already happened by the time Shatterglass Mage can kill this. So this is basically just a rampant growth that doesn't fix your colors. And it's pretty amazing. I can't wait to try and make more dedicated ramp strategies. This is also almost certainly gonna be a 4-off in our ramp and might enable some really cool bigger time ramp decks to ramp into some powerful stuff. Yeah, great card, great role player, might enable 1 or 2 new decks or different ways of building certain decks. Then we have the Dilfek Stalker, the card that I got to preview. As I already mentioned, the card pairs nicely with Evelina, Dark Return and Obelisk, or Arcanum Monitor and Praxis Tokens. One thing that I completely forgot in my review is, this card also pairs pretty well with Chalice. The major downside is that it's a bit slow with Chalice, because it takes you a turn till you can use it, but it's really nice. The Scry 1 is pretty good in Chalice, and being a body for Chalice is always welcome while also solving some problems. The issue is that it competes with Auric Runehammer for the same role, while Runehammer can also kill opposing relic weapons, for example, and is a threat that doesn't die to traditional removal, unlike Stalker. So not sure how good it's gonna fit in, how well it's gonna fit in Chalice. Might see a small number in main decks, or maybe at least some in the sideboard. It's definitely something that Chalice cares about potentially. And last but not least, another card that's actually relevant in the Dinosaur deck, Twinning Ritual. Playing a Twinning Ritual on this on turn 2, just to play the 3/3 version on turn 3 to get the powerful tempo swing that I talked about in the review of killing, say, the opposing Arcano Outlaw and leaving behind a 3/3 and getting that scry is so the Dinosaur, this looks actually really good in the Dinosaur deck, especially if you play like 4 Twinning Ritual and 4 Evelina. This is definitely something that I'm going to experiment with, and there will probably be a new Dinosaur update at some point in the future. Then we have Sadistic Valkyrie. This is potentially decent. It's very fragile at 3/1. Dies to Varus Favor and a bunch of other things. And also in the air trades with like used up Friendly Wisps, Humbug Swarm tokens and stuff like that. So there's a bit of an issue there. But it's decent. Like basically it has Life Force. When you gain health, Sadistic Valkyrie gets permanent lifesteal. So this basically turns from a Life Force card into a Life Force enabler, which is definitely decent and might be interesting to try in a more aggressive Life Force deck to see if it is enough to make it work. But all in all, the card is a bit underpowered and super exciting, but might be worth trying in the context of aggressive Life Force deck. Then we have Dueling Pistols. This card's actually pretty decent. I talked about it in spoiler review already. Yeah, it's a bit expensive, but the fact that it makes your biggest guy like virtually unblockable thanks to the quick draw while adding some stats to it, and basically being sort of a 2-for-1 by also killing a smaller guy or crippling a threat to a point where it's not a threat anymore can be really nice, and it also has nice synergy with Havrod. So definitely a card that's not completely irrelevant or uninteresting for constructed, but a bit more niche. Then we have Cruciation. I initially was kind of excited about the card. The problem is it's not even a fast spell, so the fact that it's slow, basically in terms of spell speed, is kind of a problem. Then the fact that it kills single faction units in a world with Tavrod, where being able to kill multi-faction units is more important than ever, especially because of Tavrod and Cersos and Heart of the Vaults running rampant on ladder in the near future. This card is very problematic, and there's actually not that many high health monocolor units that you can kill. Titan is obviously a great one, but other than Titan, a lot of other targets don't even gain you that much health, making it not even that powerful with cards like Bloodcall Invocation or Bloodcall Invoker, which are the cards that I first thought about, because it's pretty sweet to go like turn 5 Bloodcall Invoker, turn 6 kill a big guy, get a big guy of your own, get a bunch of health, and that should be super swingy of a turn to put you way ahead if you have been behind, or and like flip the game around. But yeah, as of right now, this card not gonna be very good, unfortunately. I think maybe it can make it as a 1 or 2 of in the low Xenon mid-range or Xenon control deck to help in the late game to gain some health back and not get burned out or run over by aggro and stabilize. But all in all, pretty underwhelming. I wish it was at least like a fast spell, or instead of a fast spell had a different kill condition or something. The way it is right now, the card's just too expensive and too inflexible, I think, and too hard on the color cost at the same time. Too many restrictions, too costly for too little gain. And last but not least, we have the worst card, I would say, in the adventure, Stranger's Mark. A unit of your choice is now a stranger. So that basically would require you to have a unit that is not a stranger, that you still absolutely want to play in your stranger deck, and then in addition play 4 more cards, or maybe 3 more Stranger's Mark, to turn that unit into a stranger. Sure, if you actually turn a non-stranger into a stranger with this is actually pretty powerful, because it basically reads 0 cost spell, give a unit all battle skills and stat buffs from all your strangers, which is a pretty powerful effect for 0. But yeah, in what world do we have a non-stranger unit we absolutely want in our stranger deck, and then care enough to make it a stranger to put a card that is otherwise a complete blank in our deck? I don't see it. This card is a bit of a joke to me, unfortunately. I don't know what they had in mind with this. It's just useless in my opinion. Alright, then there's actually one more card that is not shown here, that is hidden. It's kind of like a surprise promo. And that's Horus Traver himself. Just when he was born. I would assume this is Horus Traver. This guy. And he's actually really good, because he's a stranger, and he's a 1-drop stranger, and he's a colorless 1-drop stranger. And he's a colorless 1-drop stranger that happens to fix all our colors, which is exactly what we want in strangers. It makes it much more likely to play, for example, the double-colored 2-cost strangers, or the new 5-colored 5-drop stranger, and makes our Force 1 strangers better, and gives us a better curve. This guy is awesome. This is like a great new addition to strangers, and I'll definitely revisit my strangers with this guy and potentially the new multicolor 5-drop. So yeah, that's exciting. Alright, that's all for the adventures and the patch. Not much else that is noteworthy from the patch. For anyone that doesn't know, the adventure costs 25,000 gold or 1,000 gems. They fixed a couple of bugs and like client and card bugs. And that's about it. Alright, that's it for the review of this pretty big and impactful and exciting patch. And you guys stay tuned for the first deck text rolling in soon once I have done more brewing and testing. And until then, make sure to follow me on Twitch, turn on your notifications to not miss when I go live to stream, to see all the brewing and testing and progress leading up to the first deck text. So don't miss it, and thanks for watching. See you next time.